Hi YouTube, this is Joe Calton with Calton Cutlery. You can find me on the web, caltoncutlery.com. Okay, so at the end of the last video, we got our, actually I don't want to move that. So it's just like this one, our silicon carbide coarse fine stone that we've been working on that I picked up off of eBay, along with, I think that was with another stone and like a sharpening steel and a, this thing. So kind of like a silicon carbide file, which is really cool for sharpening like shovels, axes, things like that. So we went ahead and we did our first round of tests with the two test knives, the Calton Cutlery 1095 neck knife and the Victorinox Tinker, the large blade. Okay. So we took the stone as I received it from the eBay seller. It was really nasty, glazed over, had some copper in the top of it, like somebody had been trying to shine up a penny. A whole bunch of, just trash in the top of the stone, right? We hit the stone with some mineral oil and went to sharpening. We did our tests, our cut test to see how much gain and force was required from the first cut to either the 50th with the Tinker or the 100th with the neck knife. And then we went ahead and dressed the stone with the Thumbler's coarse, got it all nice and flat and level. Then we took it down to the fine, so the coarse, the closest thing I could find on eBay said that the coarse was 6090. Comparing it to the 6090 that I have that's actual graded grit from a different seller, it looks coarser than that. So I'm going to call it like a 40 or a 50 grit. Okay, then once we had it flat and level and dressed out nice to the 40 or 50 grit, then we went ahead and took it to the Thumbler's fine powder, which according to that eBay seller was at 120 to 220 grit. And comparing it to the graded 220 grit that I have, I would have to agree with that. It's somewhere right around in that range. So we took it all the way down to a 220 grit finish, checked it out underneath the microscope a couple of times, and then cleaned everything up, put a little bit of fresh 220 grit powder on there, and then just did some nice light passes on the glass and the 220 grit to finalize the conditioning of the surface of the stone. So now when I run my fingertip across the surface of that stone, my fingertip tells me that there are nice sharp particles or shards or whatever you want to call them that are on the top of that stone and they're ready to go to work. Okay, I have not sharpened anything yet on it, so you're going to get to see that. So first, let's take a look at what it looks like on the microscope, and then we will get to sharpening. Okay, so at the end of the last video, I talked about this being a vintage stone. Whether it's a Norton or not, I don't know. I mean, it acts like the other Nortons, or actually the ones that I've gotten that came in pike boxes. Which are the fine side is a little bit finer than what the current production is. Anyways, so what we've got here is we've got roughly a 300 grit particle size, okay, because these stones are classed as a 300 grit-ish stone. And we've got it dressed with a 220 grit powder, okay. And we did a pretty good job. I mean, look, we've got no, hardly any or no trash in between the particles, okay? Which means that, okay, when I say there's no trash in between the particles, that's a good thing, okay? Because if there's space in between these grits here, that means there's space for new trash to fall into and not impede the sharpening process. Okay, so if you think of the stone as like a bed of nails or something, right? Okay, so you've got all these points and everything, right? Well, if the space in between the nails is filled up, now the tips of the nails might be exposed and they might be cutting a little bit, but there's no place for whatever is being cut to fall into. Okay, So then whatever you're cutting off stays on top of the stone, and then, you know, your edge keeps running into that trash all the time instead of it falling down in between the particles and being out of the way while you're sharpening. Okay, so anyway, so we got a nice looking surface right here. Okay, this stone looks like it's freshly cut, nice and flat, ready to go to work. So let's test it out. So let's bring you over here. This is where we had you last time, I think. Right about there. Can you see the stone? Okay. Alright, so we got straight up mineral oil. Okay, let us start with the 1095 Calton cutlery necker. So we're going to rub, you know, get the oil all nice and, you know. Now that feels really nice. Actually, let's pull you back over and get you up close so maybe you can hear it. See how that sounds like it's cutting nice and aggressive? Okay, so I already have a burr on one side. Almost have the burr moved over. There's a little spot right there that's not. There it is. Okay, now we're gonna start counting, you know, 2, 3, 10 strokes on each side, moving that burr back and forth. Now we're going to lighten up on our pressure and really start weakening that burr up and getting it ready for removal. Now, I'm sure the guys that are paying attention have said, well, wait a minute, you're not sharpening the belly or the point. And you're right, I'm not sharpening the belly or the point. For this test right here where we're going to be cutting the rope, all we're going to be using is this section of the blade. So even though we're already going to put a whole bunch of wear on this knife, why put more wear up in here on a portion that we're not going to test, okay? Alright, so we got that burr nice and weakened up. Let's go ahead and put more oil so that we can float the majority of the trash that's sitting on top of that stone off, so that we have a nice surface to do our burr shearing. Okay, so if this is flat, that was our original sharpening angle. Now let's pick it up another 10, 15 degrees, or you know, that much, and then very lightly shear that burr. Now what's left of that burr moved to this other side. So let's shear it the other way. A little bit left. Little bit left. Maybe just a touch more. Okay, so that is a burr-free edge. Now let's take a look at it underneath the scope, because that's what we did last time. Wipe it and my hands off right quick. Okay, there's the surface of our bowling ball. There's our edge. Now this is the part that I kind of wish I knew how to like superimpose, you know, so like snap a picture from the last video and then bring it over here and put it next to this one right on the same video so y'all can see the difference, okay? But from what I remember seeing in the other video is these scratches are much crisper looking to me. Okay, so like the edge of the edge of the scratch looks sharper. Okay, it doesn't look like it's been kind of mushed over a little bit, you know. So like if we were cutting with a dull file or a dull kitchen knife or something like that, where that edge just kind of looks mashed instead of crisply cut, and this edge looks like it's got really nice sharp teeth on it and they're ready to go to work. Okay, so we will find out here in a second. Let's put you over here to where you can see the cutting going on. Okay, so let's wipe that off so I can see our weight. Yep, you can see. Okay, so the weight of the 2x4 chunk, my hand, and the rope, we're looking at 1 to 2 pounds, somewhere around there. So our first cut is 5 to 6 pounds, okay? And that feels like a nice crisp cut, okay? So like I said, 5 to 6 pounds. Actually, let's write that down this time. We need a pen. So 5 to 6. Now we're going to go ahead and do 100 cuts. Okay, there's 50. Okay, I'm not feeling like the edge is rolled over or anything. Let's do a quick check. 1 to 2 pounds for the weight of my hand, the rope, and the block. 6, maybe 7 or so on there. So we've gained about a pound. Let's do 50 more. Okay, there's 50, and there's not enough of the rope left to hold on to. So let's go ahead and uncoil some more rope. So I told y'all in one of the previous videos, because there's a whole bunch of videos, with this rope cutting thing, rope is pretty much, if you think you're a good knife maker and if you think you're a good knife sharpener, grab yourself a coil of this rope. I buy it by the roll now. I'm about a quarter of the way through my second roll of this rope. Comes in 150 foot lengths, and there's 3 strands in each piece of the rope, right? So we'd have to do the math right quick to find out exactly how many cuts that is, but I'm betting it's a lot. Okay, so now granted this rope is a little bit different, so but it should still be pretty close, because each one of these strands is going to be a different diameter, give or take within 1/16 to 1/8 of an inch, something like that. Alright, so we're at 1 to 2 pounds for holding everything. There we go, we're about 10 pounds or so to make our cut. So if our first cut took 5 to 6 pounds, and this one right here, 100 cuts, and we're at, well, let's call it 10 to 11 pounds. Okay, that's still a 5-pound difference in 100 cuts. Oh, you hear that thunder outside? Which is roughly about the same here. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll go ahead and do the tinker next. I think what's happening with the neck knife is that we're just not pushing the steel hard enough to get it to fail. Those knives will generally do, you know, several hundred cuts before they hit the 10-pound increase mark, whereas these tinkerers usually can't do near that many. Alright, so let's get you up here. Alright, so let's go ahead and start a new edge. Okay, we have a burr. We have a burr on that side. We move the burr over. Moved it back over. Now let's go ahead and take a break here and look at this burr. Because the burr is what tells you everything, you know, about where you are in the sharpening process. So the burr is going to be, I can feel it right here, right? So we're going to lay this side of the knife down and look at the burr right there. Now remember, this is some sort of a stainless steel knife that's run soft enough to be stable in a pocket knife. Okay? So generally speaking, the burrs that this steel forms, they tend to want to hang on a little bit more. Alright? So this right here is, you know, the side view of our burr. Okay? And you can see how, again, we're looking at a three-dimensional object in two different planes, right? Okay, so this right here is our burr. And our burr is flaking off here in points, right? I hope you can see that. That's right around where that red box is. Maybe we'll put it in a... there. Now it's in the center of that box. See that little piece right there? That's about ready to come off, right? Now if you look at the way that the light is reflecting, okay, you've got the light reflecting here, and then you've got a line going this way of reflected light, and then you've got the burr hanging on, right? So if you can imagine, this is, that steel is cupped towards us, okay? And that line of light is getting reflected inside that bend, okay? So our edge, by the time we get this burr finished weakened and sheared off, our edge is actually going to be right about here. Okay? Alright. Oh, the scratch pattern. No, we'll finish up the edge and then look at the scratch pattern. Okay, so where were we? Let's see, it was on this side. So we're lightening up our pressure and getting that burr ready for shearing. Okay, now it feels pretty dang light. So let's go ahead and flood our stone, you know, to float off most of that trash so that it doesn't, so it either floats off the top or it gets buried down in between the particles, right? So that there's room for the burr to get sheared off and get held. So we'll raise it up higher, and that moved it, either cut half of it and moved the other half over. Okay, the same thing. What's left of that burr keeps getting finer and finer as we do this. And usually this soft stainless takes a couple of more shearing passes than a nice hard, crisp, high carbon blade does. There, burr's gone. Well, what we didn't try on the other one, which, I mean, this is kind of silly because we know it's going to take hair off. Okay, there's hair off on that side, and hair off on that side. Okay, let's bring it back up here. Camera went to sleep. That's kind of odd. How come this time it looks... No, it looks about the same. I think it does anyways. For a second there it looked larger than what I kind of remembered it. Okay, so now look at this scratch pattern. It looks sharper to me. You know, the edges of the grooves that were left by the particles there look sharper. That kind of looks to me like, I don't know what that is. But the edge looks like it's in really good shape, ready to go to work, nice and toothy. Okay, so let's go ahead and do our rope cutting test. And we're at 20 minutes, so we'll probably get this whole part of this rope cutting test, just one pass done. And I think that'll be enough. Okay, so weight of my hand block and rope is 1 to 2 pounds. Okay, we're at about 8 to finish that cut. The edge still feels pretty good. Let's write down that 8. The reason this requires so much more force to make the cut is because this is a much thicker edge. You know, and probably a steeper edge angle, okay? Because like I said, this is stainless and it's soft. So it won't hold the really thin edge geometry that good 1095 will. Alright, so let's go ahead, and I think we're doing 50 cuts. But you hear that crunch? That's a nice aggressive edge. What was that, 4? There's 20. Now there's 40. Now I can feel the edge quit working. It was about at about 35 or so, but we'll keep going. So that's 40. Okay, so it's still cutting, and it's still cutting fairly good, but let's see what the weight tells us. Okay, that's a pound or 2. That was 12 or 13. So 12 or 13 from 8, so that would be 4 to 5 pounds, which would be on the light end of our test before. You know, so 1 pound, boy, 1 pound, maybe 2 pounds, something like that. Statistically speaking, you know, that's not a whole lot. I mean, like I said before, you know, I'm not a machine, nor is anybody else that I know of. But my general takeaway from this test is that that crisper edge, like I said, that came back in the low end of the pressure gain that we got from our 3 tests before, right? And the edge just kind of felt to me to be crisper, and it was cutting a little bit more aggressively. You know, so does the stone, does a freshly conditioned stone make a crisper edge? You know, this test, I don't think it really proved it one way or another, but the feeling that I got while I was doing it says, yeah, more than likely it does. Anyway, so, you know, I think this was, actually, wait a minute. You know what, we got 24 minutes. That's enough time. Let's run through a second round right quick. Can you see where I'm at? There you go. You know, this next one we might hit 50 and hit, you know, if we hit 5 again, I would say, you know, that's pretty conclusive. We are on the right track. If we hit 8 or so, then I'd say, you know, maybe we're not. Okay, we got a burr on that side. You know, I think if I was to take the necker and run through, you know, say 300 or 400 cuts, I think we'd definitely see a change there. Almost, I think. Like I said, sometimes this stainless makes will hold on to a burr for quite a bit longer than what you think it would. Okay, there it's gone. Alright, let's get you back over here a little bit, or maybe just leave you there. Bring you a little farther down there. Okay, so we're at 1 pound. Yeah, we're still about that 8, which is what I wrote down before. That's 20. Okay, there's 50. So let's measure the 51st cut. Wow, that was at 11. So that does, so if we went 8 to 11, we went 8 to, what was it, 12 or 13, I think? Yeah, 12 or 13, because that would have been 5. So now we went 8 to 11. So that's a 3-pound gain over 50 cuts. Like I said, this is, you know, rope cutting helps quite a bit. But generally speaking, you have to do 5-6 runs, you know, or how many you have the patience to do, and kind of average everything out. But now let's look at the, we got one more thing to do. Let's look at this edge. Now that we're done cutting with it. Now again, I mean, we just went 50 cuts, okay? So we didn't go until it would quit cutting. We just went 50 cuts so that you don't sit there and watch me cut rope, you know, for hours on end. But look at this edge. I mean, it still doesn't look bad at all. You know, I would guess this edge would probably go, I mean, I said it quit like aggressively cutting at like 35 cuts. That was when that real fresh, you know, oh my goodness, that's really sharp, where that kind of degraded down into, okay, it's still sharp, it's still gonna cut for, you know, another 50, 100 cuts, something like that. But still, it doesn't look too bad still. So anyway, you know, this was a pretty fun test with the fine side of the combination silicon carbide stone. Like I said, with the tinker, I think we kind of showed, okay, that the sharper stone does create a superior edge. I think we would have had to push the 1095 a lot farther, like maybe go 200, 300, 400 cuts, you know, on the worn out surface, and the same on the fresh cut surface. So anyway, I think it was an awful lot of fun, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to be doing the same sort of test with the soft and hard Arkansas stones. So we'll have to keep testing and see if I'm right. I think I am. it's like I said, it's just something that I've just thought about over the years of sharpening. It sure seems like a fresh cut stone, or one right out of the box, or a fresh diamond stone versus a worn diamond stone, makes an edge that is crisper and sharper and holds that edge a little bit longer. So anyway, so I hope you enjoyed the video. Again, this is Joe Calton with Calton Cutlery. You can find me on the web, caltoncutlery.com. I hope you enjoyed the video, and we will see you next time.